that joined and said yes to being on the show. But this is one exciting show because it will kick off our Computer Science Education Week of 2020. And we do have quite a few exciting updates in store for you. So let me share my screen, because I do have access to the slides, and hopefully you are seeing these slides. And let me turn on my, oh, wrong button. Let me turn on my closed captioning as well.
It's okay. It's Danielle's first time, so it's okay.
Yeah. That's good. All right, here we go. So, Computer Science Education Week, what is it? That is an annual program that is encouraging all K through 12 students to take interest in computer science. So, more than likely, you probably know that it is Hour of Code. So, some people call it Hour of Code Week, some people call it Computer Science Education Week. But Hour of Code, that is used as something to encourage all students to participate in coding 1 hour, at least 1 hour during the week of December. So that is December 7th through 13th. Of course, you can participate before that time, but we are really encouraging every single student, every single adult to participate in 1 hour of coding between now and December 13th. So let me, because I know Glenn has to go to a meeting, let me go to his presentation so he can share how he is implementing Hour of Code, computer science, coding, etc. with his students. Oh, Glenn, you're muted. Glenn, can you hear me? You're muted.
Yeah. Oh, are you gonna? So you're gonna click the slides as I go?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my name is Glenn Francisco, and I work for Brookline School, and I'm the computer lab teacher there. And I have used for the last couple of years. I've tried out a lot of different coding programs, and I've really gravitated toward Codeorg because it's really it's kind of got everything I need in it. Let me kind of go over what I'm talking about. So with Codeorg, there actually are several things that you need to consider before you actually use it, and that is when you set it up, you want to set it up to be used either with Google Classroom, Clever, or put in an individual user code. Generally, a lot of teachers want to use a Google Classroom or Clever to set it up to sync it because it syncs automatically. The curriculum that you use with middle school, which is what I teach, is the Express curriculum or CS Fundamentals. And CS Fundamentals is a really robust, complete program, whereas the Express program, it takes little pieces of the Fundamentals program and speeds kids through it. So it's kind of your choice. You wouldn't want to do both because it duplicates. The settings, in the settings, when you set it up over, well, I don't know if there's a switch over here to show it, but settings will allow you to view the kids' progress and also to resync. So periodically when you're using Code.org, you do have to resync it to either Google Classroom or Clever by, manually. So just remember that that's something that may happen if you have high turnover students like I do in my program. We have kids coming in every, few weeks or so. So we've got to resync a lot. There is a tool called paired programming, which allows kids to pair up, and let's say a kid's struggling, and this would be really great to use in our digital situation right now where kids are working remotely and they're trying to figure out something and they have no one to turn to get help. If you set up paired programming, it allows somebody else to remotely work with them to help solve a problem. And then status. The status bar down below, as you can see, shows how kids are performing on different assignments, and so they gradate over to the side there. They start off with a 0 and then a green circle if they're partially working on it. If they've kind of got it, they get that 1 circle, and then they can complete an assignment if They may have to use more steps than they're supposed to, like they're supposed to use a loop, but maybe they just go through the steps instead of looping it into a group. They can complete it, but obviously try to move them to minimizing the steps as well. So that's what this scale works for. Go ahead and flip to the next slide here. Lessons. So ideally, you want to assign one section at a time. Set a goal each day, what you want them to accomplish, and test out the assignment for yourself first. So everything you set up for the kids is also set up for you. So when you go in and set up an assignment, you can go into that assignment as well and do the assignment. So for example, I've got down below, I'm showing how one of the very first things it shows kids is how to manipulate the graphics to snap code blocks in place to set up the logic on this. Also, this is a really cool, I work with a lot of kids who have reading disabilities and learning disabilities. And so there is a reader on here that actually talks through exactly what they want them to do. And you can see so over on the right side there's a little play button, and it also has reader scripts there that you can click to the left of the play button, which will actually highlight the word as it's reading it. So it's kind of cool. So let's see. Yes, go on to the next one now. All right, so some of the skills that, of course, are going to develop are block coding, which then we take and then we move on to Minecraft. And the block coding really, really helps them with some of the stuff that we do in Minecraft. Organizing their thoughts, which is really great for a lot of my kids. I've got a lot of kids with attention deficit disorder, and they can start to slow down a little bit, organize. And using the graphical interface, it works with their multiple modalities to help them to think the way they need to think. It's really cool. Critical thinking skills are of course developed with this, logic and problem solving. So math, English, language arts, all of that is a very beneficial thing. Go ahead. Benefits. Of course, accessible, like I say, to all learning styles and levels, multiple modalities. Coding spans multiple curriculum areas and strengthens learning skills, as I mentioned, in various curriculum areas. It helps students with their attention deficit issues, to be able to work and focus. This is a web-based program. It's not an app. So as they work in it, there's a lot of instantaneous collaboration that can be done with it. As I mentioned, that one tool which allows kids to pair together and work. And then some offline activities are also available in it, which I have not tried yet, but I want to soon, which are the digital citizenship and various other things. Go ahead and skip to the next. Some of the pitfalls and issues. Now, Express versus the fundamentals program, as I mentioned earlier, there's some duplication there. So you definitely want to plan what you're going to do first. Are you going to be in this for the long haul for a couple of months, or do you want to just get kids through it fast? Do you have speedy learners? If you do, then you might want to do the Express program. There are some, I call them dance party deviants who get into one thing. There's a segment in here which is focuses on it's like making people dance and stuff like that, and has great music. And of course, the music's getting kind of old and they're not updating the music, so the kids don't like that. But they get in there and they have a lot of fun just listening to the music. So you got to kind of keep them moving on. Navigation, out of topic, to other comforting activities. So things like the dance party or going to things that they like, you have to kind of watch and help them through it. There's a high student turnover. Let's see, wait a minute. I think I already covered that. We can skip that. Go ahead and on to the next slide. Some modifications I would recommend: skipping activities, allowing, let's see. I already mentioned that earlier. Okay, I already mentioned both of those. Did you skip the slide before that? No, okay. So, all right, go on to the next one. All right, this is the last one. Comparison with other coding programs. My personal favorite choice is Codeorg. As I mentioned, it's got better rigor, I think, than all the other programs. It's more in depth. It doesn't have any ads. It's not overly gamey, and it doesn't have a lot of the distractions that I've seen in some of the other programs. like community forums, and it doesn't get you off task with navigating to other off task topics as easily. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Glenn, so
You're
much
welcome.
for sharing.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to turn it over to Catherine.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Glenn. I'm a huge proponent of Code.org, and I teach elementary, kindergarten through fifth. But one thing that I like to do with my littles before is I'll do some unplugged activities where, especially with kindergarten and in the NTI realm let me back up. One thing that I've done with all my classes the past couple of weeks is we've gotten started with coding, because what I like them to be able to do when we get into what is considered the hour of code week or the computer science education week is I'd like them to be able to go in and explore the different parts of it on their own. So I want them to have the background to be able to create the block coding, to create the scripts, to be able to get the different little projects on code.org or another site that would work for them. So what I'll do even with like kindergarten is we go in, and what I did this time with NTI with using Google Meet is we talked how it's giving specific directions and instructions and learning that that's part of what coding is. If you want it to do exactly, whatever it is that you're giving the directions to, if you want it to be exactly what you want, you have to be specific. So I always start a fun game of Miss Teggy says instead of Simon says with my kindergarten and first graders. My second graders through fifth, they're pretty apt to jump in and get going. Codeable, I put on here as well. I have not had an opportunity to use it this school year. I did use it the last school year. It is more of a game-based coding activity site. They loved it. It's a fun one to try out. But I have mainly used during NTI during this time Code.org. And one thing too that I found last year with my kindergartners, I kind of waited because with the whole idea of them being able to use the computer so well and things like that. Well, this year we jumped right into it because if like Glenn showed in the one slide, it shows you, especially with the littles, with the fundamentals piece of it, it guides them of how to use the Chromebook and how to use the touchpad and all of those things at the very beginning. So which is wonderful setup because as those of you who've used this site before, each lesson gets progressively a little bit harder. And so what I do is I use mine through Google Classroom and I sync all my classes that way. And then I set them all up at different lesson levels. So obviously with kindergarten, I start with A. And then what I have done, because the one downfall that I'm finding is with some of my students who might not be where the rest of their class is or might need a little bit more practice in one more area. I've gone in with them on the NTI aspect of it specifically and like had a special meet with them and shown them how to go back. Because once you set a class on Google Classroom, once you set it to a lesson, you cannot individually assign a person a different section, which is unfortunate. And I wish that we could do that. But it's really, once you get on, like if I was in person, once I did this last year, I would sit with the student and show them how to go back to the previous sessions and we would work on it there. Another activity that my students love to do for the unplugged section is we also pretend, and my fifth graders love this, we pretend we're robots. So we'll have, at the beginning of the room, I'll place like a starting point and at the other end of the room. And I also work with my library media specialist in this and we use the library. We place like an endpoint and they have to code their partner to get there. And that's found to be really fun because, a lot of times you'll see students who are like, oh, just walk forward. Well, that's not going to work. You have to walk forward 6 steps and then turn right and then walk more 6 steps. So that's learning that specific direction part. But I can't say enough, Glenn went on about the code.org. It is absolutely, once you get past those unplugged parts, they just jump into it and they've loved it. So for me, right now, during all of my lessons that I'm doing during NTI, I've really been focusing on teaching all of my students the different parts of code.org. And then what we're going to do during the hour of code week is they're going to have an opportunity to go in with the Minecraft, with the dance party that Glenn was talking about. There's a sports one with the little Angry Bird guy. They get to create their own coding problem, and then I let them share those. And so then we all come together. So that's kind of how I approach it. We usually, like at school, I made a big deal about it and did all kinds of fun things about it. We've been trying different parts of it here with NTI, but so far I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from my parents.
And that is also just all of the things that you talked about when the activities that you implement with your students. I would love to be in your classroom.
Come on anytime. My door's always open.
Yes. Just because just the passion, you can hear the passion that you have for it as you are talking about it. So you are doing an amazing job at implementing coding, and it's not just 1 week or one activity. It is multiple times throughout the year because you do see the importance in it.
So. Yes, thank you.
All right, so next. So we did want to share some resources with you. First, we do have a choice board of 4 different grades. So the first choice board is 6+. And as you can see, there are different activities that are available. So there is an unplugged activity. And when we mention unplugged, that means without devices. And some of you may be thinking, what? We're all NTI. But yes, you can still experience unplugged activities with your students. I know I have a first grader in JCPS, and sometimes that student or that teacher assigns unplugged or just paper-based activities with your student. So if you do want to experience unplugged activity and experience coding, that is possible as well. As well as we have Apple Swift, AI, Brain Pop, and Coasters, as well as Minecraft. The exciting thing with Minecraft, which we will talk about a little later, is that they just released their Minecraft Hour of Code 2020, I believe yesterday. So it's fresh off the press, and that was released yesterday. So we will be sharing more about that in a few moments as well. And then there is the choice board for kindergartens through 5th graders as well. So let's talk about other resources that are available to you. And that is the interactive lessons every day. And this is put on by Codeorg. It is every day at 11 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. And they are streaming to YouTube, which is awesome. And they have different activities that your students and you can experience. So they are calling it Code Bites. So again, just going off of that 1 hour, that bites that we learn about in coding, that is Code Bites. And on Monday, they're training a computer AI with sign language because we know the theme for this year is CS for good, and we are learning how we can use computer science for good. So on Monday's theme is training AI to have ASL interpreters, so to read those sign language, which is powerful. As well as on Tuesday, it's the dance party. I think that's one of my favorite activities that Codeorg ever came up with is that dance party, because students can pick their own music, or they can upload any music that is not available in Codeorg. On Wednesday, it is the outbreak simulator. So as you know, we are in COVID. So the virus has infected Monster Town, and now they are coding an outbreak simulator and make predictions about what will happen to the neighbors of Monster Town. So that is Wednesday. And again, it is live on YouTube. The 4th one is design apps for good. So we are learning about our community. We are learning how, again, we can make computer science for good. And Minecraft is so popular, and Minecraft will close out the week of how to help the agent activate switches, place blocks, and clear obstacles to pick up any items for the journey. So that is a little bit about Code Bites. It is linked to our presentation, and it will be linked as soon as we get off this call, so you can access that as well. And speaking of Minecraft, again, it is freshly released. It is newly released as of yesterday, but they do have Minecraft Hour of Code Facilitator Training 2020. So I know a lot of JCPS teachers, they have been attending a Minecraft cohort. This is another opportunity to gain skills in using Minecraft. You can receive 500 points by participating in this activity. So that they have all of the course objectives, so participants will learn about Minecraft Hour of Code 2020. The course structure, they will read, watch, do, reflect. And they do have a very great lesson on Minecraft, and again, incorporating that CS for good. It's the tale of two villages, which is a very powerful lesson in Minecraft. And as you can see, they do use both blocks and Python as well. All right. I do see a question in the chat, and the question from Kirk Haynes says that, is anyone familiar with Google CS First curriculum or activities? And I can say, Kirk, we are familiar with Google CS First curriculum. The unfortunate part is that in JCPS, it is not approved for student use. So students cannot log into that platform. However, you can use that platform as a teacher for you to download or you to access that material and implement. But again, it's not approved for student use, but we are continuously and constantly working on approving things for students as well. All right, so now we have provided you with resources. So how can you get involved? The very first thing is that we do want you to register on hourofcode.us, and this will let us and the entire world actually know that you are participating in Hour of Code. So if you see the map and look at all of these Hour of Code events that are happening all over the place, that is amazing. So down below, you can join us during the Hour of Code, and then you can tell them a little bit about your event. So that is how you register for the Hour of Code. The second step is that we do want you to get your entire school to participate in Hour of Code, and all means all. So we're talking about all students, all employees at your building. We do want everyone to participate in Hour of Code because we do know how powerful that is. And then the third step, and all of this will be communicated through your digital innovation leaders. And this is just an overview to get you all excited. But the third step is that we do want you to fill out a form. It's just a brief form of how many students participated and how many staff participated, because we want to celebrate you and we want to have a good grasp on JCPS impact. Lastly, if not important, is that we want you to share all of the ways that you are innovating using the hashtags JCPSDigIn and the Hour of Code hashtag on Twitter. We are very excited when you all tweet out everything that you are doing. For me, particularly the Hour of Code, just because that's one of my rocks and that's one of the things that I am passionate about is coding. So let me really quick show you also where all of that information can be found, and that is on the website. As you can see, I was editing the website. So this is the website. We'll give you step 1, step 2, step 3, as well as links to the choice boards right here and videos that we have done on the Hour of Code. And this video will be uploaded to the website as well. Again, this is your choice board. Feel free to make a copy. Feel free to edit the choice board and give it to your students. All right. All right. Lastly, I do want to shout out these schools. They were the leaders of the pack. So they have already signed up to participate in Hour of Code 2020. So huge shout out to Arbondale, Blake, Bloom, Kemp Taylor, Carruthers, Central High School, Cochran, Crosby, Dunn, Foster, Farnsley, Highland, Jacob, Zeke, No, the Phoenix School of Discovery, Thomas Jefferson Middle, and Valley High School. Huge shout out to you all for being one of the first schools in JCPS to sign up to participate in the Hour of Code. Big congratulations to you all for taking that leap forward and being one of the first. And I believe, Catherine, do you have anything else that you want to add?
No, for me though, for those of you that teach elementary, one thing, just to remind them as they jump into this, kind of like how you were talking about, Daniel, with your first grader, the unplugged activities are just as important as getting on for them to understand the problem solving pieces and how it all works together. But thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, not a problem. And I completely agree. Just because we are in NTI, you don't have to stop using those unplugged activities. Those unplugged activities are just as powerful as if you would have had a device. So I totally agree.